Welcome to Her Subconscious Blueprint, your no BS space for subconscious healing, bold breakthroughs, and becoming the woman who actually lives the life she dreams about. I'm Jen Boy, hypnotherapist, mindset coach, and your new healing hype girl. So today I want to talk about something that might feel like an unpopular opinion, but it also is deeply revealing if you let it land. Okay, hear me out. January is not the time for goals. I know. That goes against everything that we've been taught. New year, new me, fresh start, clean slate, resolutions, hustle, discipline. Fix everything now so this year can finally be the year. But here's the truth I wish more people would do and follow. January isn't for forcing. It's not for pushing. And it's not for setting brand new goals from scratch. January is for integration. And if you've been feeling tired, unmotivated, resistant, emotional, or strangely heavy at the start of this year, nothing's wrong with you. You are responding exactly the way a regulated nervous system should. Because your body doesn't reset just because the calendar changed. Your nervous system is still processing what you lived through last year. Emotionally, energetically, subconsciously. And when we try to sprint forward without honoring that, we don't create aligned change. We create burnout and self-sabotage. I see this every single year. And there's a reason that this conversation matters so much in January. And it's because of something called Quitter's Day. Now, Quitter's Day usually lands in the third week of January right now, often around January 19th. And it's been tracked year after year by fitness apps, habit studies, and behavioral research. And the data is striking. Roughly 80% of people abandon their New Year's goal by mid-February. And a huge drop-off happens right around that third week of January. Gym attendance drops, habit tracking stops, motivation tanks, and people quietly decide, I guess this just isn't my year. But here's what's important. People don't quit because they're weak. They quit because their nervous system is overwhelmed. The goal was too big. In a sense, when setting goals, you have to go small, then go big. The old saying of go big or go home doesn't apply to goal setting, contrary to what you might think or have been taught or told or believe. Most New Year's goals are set in the first few days of January, when motivation is high, adrenaline is up, and hope is loud. But motivation is temporary. It's a temporary chemical state. It's not designed to last. By week 3, the adrenaline wears off. Real life returns. The body starts asking for safety, rest, and regulation, and suddenly the goals feel heavy, hard, and emotionally expensive. So people don't quit because they stopped wanting the goal. They quit because their systems can't sustain the way they've tried to achieve them. This is the part that gets missed. Quitter's Day isn't a discipline problem. It's a capacity problem. When goals are built on urgency of, I need to fix myself now, they collapse the moment the nervous system asks for care. And instead of adjusting the approach, we blame ourselves. We say things like, I just don't have the willpower. I always do this. I always quit. Why can't I stick to anything? But the truth is, most people didn't fail the goal. The goal failed them. Because it was never designed with safety, pacing, or integration in mind. Your body will always choose familiarity over force. It will always choose regulation over pressure. And when it doesn't feel safe, it will shut the whole thing down. That's why Quitter's Day keeps happening. Not because people are broken, but because we keep trying to create change from the same outdated model. And this is why January isn't the time to push harder. It's the time to build capacity, to ask, what can my nervous system actually hold right now? What feels doable instead of impressive? What small actions could I repeat even on a bad day? Because goals that survive Quitter's Day, they're not the biggest goals. They're the ones that feel safe enough to continue when motivation disappears. And that is how real change happens. People set massive goals from urgency, from fear, from a story that says, I need to be different now or I've failed. And then we hit Quitter's Day, the third week of January, when motivation crashes, discipline disappears, and people quietly give up on the goals that they swore so bad they wanted and were going to stick to. And here's the part that no one's talking about. Quitter's Day and quitting your goal, it isn't about laziness. It's not about lack of willpower. And it's definitely not about you not wanting it bad enough. Quitter's Day happens because the goals were set from pressure instead of presence. Your nervous system hadn't landed yet. Your identity hadn't integrated yet. Your body didn't feel safe enough to sustain the change. So, of course it rebelled. The problem was never discipline. The problem was timing. January is not a creation month. It's an embodiment month. It's the month where your system is asking to land, to exhale, to make sense of what just ended. And last week we talked about the 9-year cycle ending and how we're shifting from the snake energy into the horse energy. So this really applies, especially if the year before was heavy, emotional, transformative, ending cycles, shedding identities, letting go of versions of yourself you thought you would always be. You cannot rush embodiment. You can't think your way into becoming. You have to feel your way there. And that is so fucking uncomfortable, especially for those of us who learned early on that productivity equals worth, that rest has to be earned, and that slowing down means that you're falling behind. I was raised in a culture, and if I'm being honest, a nervous system that believed that rest was lazy, that stillness was dangerous, and that if you weren't constantly improving, you were failing. So for a long time, January felt like pressure to me. Pressure to decide, pressure to know who I was becoming before I'd even integrated who I had been. And every time I tried to force goals from that energy, something inside me resisted. Not because I didn't want growth, but because my body wasn't ready to move yet. The resistance wasn't sabotage, it was wisdom. Your nervous system is always trying to keep you safe. And when you try to force expansion before it feels grounded, your system pushes back. That's why so many people procrastinate on goals that they truly and deeply want. Why they self-sabotage, why they lose momentum. It's not lack of desire, it's lack of safety. January is the month where safety gets rebuilt, where your body catches up to identify shifts that already happened internally. Where you stop asking, what should I do this year? And instead you start asking, who am I now really? Because goals set from an outdated identity will never stick. This season is about embodiment. Not proving, not hustling more, not performing, but healing, living it. That means honoring the natural rhythm of growth. Winter is not a planting season. Winter is a rooting season. It's when the soil rests, when energy goes inward, when clarity forms quietly instead of loudly. And when we fight that, we don't get ahead. We get fracture. So if you're listening to this and feeling behind because you don't have a clear vision yet, hear me clearly. You're not late. You're listening, you're integrating, and that is the most responsible thing you can do right now. Because creation without integration is just repetition. You don't need a bigger vision yet. You need a regulated body. You need to feel safe where you are before you decide where you're going. That's what January is for. Now, this does not mean that we don't set goals. It means we set them differently. Instead of asking, what big thing do I want this year? I want you to start with, what identity am I embodying now? Because sustainable goals come from identity, not pressure. So let's talk about how to actually set goals that last. First, you still get to have the big visions. I'm not here to shrink you. So if speaking is your goal, leadership, confidence, weight loss, financial growth, you get to want that. But here's where most people go wrong. They set that outcome without building safety in the process. So instead of asking your nervous system to leap to the finish line, we have to build a bridge. Let's use speaking as an example. If your goal is, I want to be a confident speaker in meetings, your nervous system hears exposure, judgment, and danger. So it resists. Instead, we break it down into actions that your body can tolerate. So maybe the first step isn't speaking at all. Maybe it's turning your camera on for 30 seconds. Maybe it's typing one comment in the chat. Maybe it's nodding and staying present instead of disassociating. Then maybe the next step is making one small comment in the meeting. And then maybe you're asking for 5 minutes on the call. And then eventually you're hosting the call. Each step teaches your body, I've survived this and I'm safe. That's how confidence is built, through evidence, not affirmations. And it's the same with weight loss. Instead of, I'm going to overhaul my entire lifestyle, maybe just the first step is drinking more water for the day, or taking a 5-minute walk, or cooking one meal at home. Small actions build trust, and they compound. And trust builds consistency. This is the missing piece. People don't fail goals because they're lazy. They fail because they ask their nervous system to do something it didn't feel safe doing. This is why Quitter's Day exists. Because when goals are set from force, your system eventually shuts it down to protect you. So instead of setting goals in January becomes about preparing your body to hold the goals. Regulating, grounding, and listening. Then, and this is important, February and March become the months of aligned action. Action that feels doable, action that feels honest, action that builds momentum instead of draining you. That's how goals last. Not because you pushed harder, but because you listened first. This season of the podcast is going to live here, in pacing your growth, in breaking cycles instead of repeating them with new aesthetics, in building a life that feels safe to stay in. So if January feels slow, let it be slow. If it feels quiet, let it be quiet. And if it feels emotional, let yourself feel it. You're not falling behind. You're preparing. And preparation is what makes everything that follows actually work and stick. I am so grateful that you're here for this season, for this becoming. I'm so full of love and gratitude that I get to share my story with you. This is Her Subconscious Blueprint, where we don't just chase the dreams, we become them. And remember, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So go out and be that version of her today. Much love and gratitude. I will see you next time.